so that we can address our issues and achieve peace. In conclusion, and before I take your questions, I'd like to know that India likes to present itself as a net security provider. The United States subsidizes the Indian economy, the Indian military, on the basis that it's to be a net security provider. India's actions have shown, as a result of this conflict, that they are a source of insecurity, not a source of security for the region. The true net security provider for our region and beyond would be peace between India and Pakistan. The President of the United States has a unique opportunity to deliver on his commitment to peace within the context of India and Pakistan. The United States enjoys good relations with Pakistan and enjoys good relations with India. From tomorrow, we will be starting our engagements in DC, where we'll be engaging with representatives of the United States government, of the United States Parliament, and we will be seeking to encourage the United States and other international players to play their role to facilitate this process. I thank you, and I look forward to taking your questions.
After this statement, the floor is open. Yes.
Thank you, Minister. Nice to see you again on behalf of the United Nations Correspondent Association. Thanks for the press conference. I have two questions. My name is Betül Yürük with CNBC Turkey. First, a global question maybe. Do you believe current tariff policies under the Trump administration are harming developing nations like Pakistan? And my second question will be more of a bilateral question. Turkey and Pakistan have long enjoyed very close political ties, and recently with drone sales on the rise, can defense trade reshape economic ties between the two countries, between Pakistan and Turkey? Thank you.
Thank you so much. As far as the tariff policies are concerned, I think everybody has their own experience. I believe that every crisis has an opportunity, and while the tariff policies surely pose challenges, they also pose great opportunities, particularly in the context of India and Pakistan, US and Pakistan. What it means is we're able to have a more comprehensive dialogue about overall trade between Pakistan and the United States. Trade between Pakistan and the United States you're sort of the largest market for Pakistan, but we still haven't managed to unlock the true potential of this relationship. So while there are challenges in this whole in the context of tariffs, we believe that there is a opportunity in this crisis. We will be availing this opportunity, hopefully for economic benefit, not only for Pakistan but also for the United States. There's a trade delegation coming soon to DC to engage with the Trump administration on economics, on trade in general. As far as Turkey and Pakistan, we have a long history. Our relationship has stood the test of time. The people of Pakistan deeply appreciate the role that the government of Turkey, but also the people of your country played in this during this conflict. As far as defense sales or our economic cooperation, I'm sure that'll also grow from strength to strength. Turkey has always played a responsible role on the global stage, and I do hope that even in this context they're able to advocate for dialogue and diplomacy in the pursuit of peace.
Dr. Siam.
Thank you so much, Abdul Hamid Sayam. Nice to see you again. I'm from Arabic Daily Al-Quds Al-Arabi. Have you traced any involvement of Israeli military and Israeli drone in the attack on Pakistan? There are some reports say that immediately Israel, of course, they declared their support to India, but have you traced any weapons coming from Israel?
And allow my, do you have another question also?
Yeah, it's related to it. Don't you see also that India is copying what Israel is doing in the occupied West Bank by allowing the settlers to take over the land? And now India is copying that by allowing Indians to settle in Kashmir? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your very pertinent and important questions. As far as the details of the Israeli equipment involved, I'll allow my team to expand if necessary. As far as I'm aware, absolutely, Israeli drones were used during India's attack on Pakistan. The parallels you draw, obviously, let me emphasize from the outset, there's no meaningful comparison that I can make between the plight of the Palestinians and the plight of Pakistan and the plight of Kashmir. What we're seeing in Gaza, what we're seeing in Palestine is uniquely outrageous, inhumane, and condemnable in all shapes, forms, and terms. Having said that, there are certain parallels that can be drawn. The actions of the Indian government post-2019 to do with the imposing demographic changes within Kashmir does draw parallels between what the settler program within the West Bank. As far as being inspired, India being inspired by the Israeli government, unfortunately it's being inspired in all the wrong ways. Its conduct outside of international law, its violation of international governments, the United Nations Charter, the arrogance with which it thought it could get away with this, that you can just scream terrorism and it justifies that you can attack any Muslim country at whim. It's based on these building of precedents that we've seen over time, be it in the context of the Iraq War, and obviously the actions within Gaza recently have inspired some of the actions by the Indian government. But Mr. Modi is sort of the Timu version of Netanyahu. Okay? It's a poor copy. And we call upon the Indian government to not be inspired by the worst examples possible. We pride ourselves, we in Pakistan pride ourselves that we're the heirs of the Indus Valley civilization. Mohenjo-daro is a stone throw away from my constituency back home. India also prides itself that they're the heirs of the Indus Valley civilization. So we should act as heirs of the Indus Valley civilization and not as how we have been acting. One of the most incredible things about the Indus Valley civilization is that with all the archaeology that's gone on, we've not found a single weapon at all. The great advancements they had, urban planning, agriculture, water distribution, even sewerage and things. Not a single weapon. How far we've come from our roots. That an Indus Valley civilization, which didn't have a single weapon, is now armed to the teeth. I think that Prime Minister Modi must decide. He has two paths to follow before him. He could pursue the path of peace and be a true heir of the Indus Valley civilization. Or he could pursue another path. A path that we've been warning about, we've been seeing for some time, where Mr. Modi started off as being perceived as the butcher of Gujarat. He went on to become the butcher of Kashmir, and he aspires to be the butcher of the Indus Valley civilization with his assault on the Indus Water Treaty. It is of utmost importance, and I have full faith, that whatever the Indian government says, the people of India, majority of the people of India are peace-loving people. They want peace with Pakistan. The majority of people in my country want peace. So my delegation will be pursuing those aspirations of our people. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Dilek Kaya, İhlas Nefs Ajansı. Considering India's rather provocative approach. Do you fear tensions from flaring up again in the near future? What do you think can prevent such a possibility?
I think absolutely your question is very legitimate. While we do have a ceasefire on the one hand, and we have one party saying we want to engage in dialogue and diplomacy, we have the other party who says this is not a ceasefire, this is a pause. That is making one aggressive statement after another. The most recent statement that Mr. Modi made was that a specific message to the youth of Pakistan, that eat bread or you can eat my bullet. That doesn't sound like a man of peace. Having said that, I would like to differentiate between his public posturing and what I believe is in the interest of our two countries. Obviously we've all come here and engaged on this mission with the hopes that by engaging international partners, just as they convinced Mr. Modi to agree to a ceasefire, they perhaps can convince the Modi government to agree to a comprehensive dialogue. And if we do engage in a comprehensive dialogue, that is the only viable path, not only to peace, but actually for us to solve our issues. There's no military solution to Kashmir. There's no military solution to terrorism. There shouldn't be a military solution to our water dispute. So that's the only worthwhile path to follow.
Mr. Nasser.
Yes, sir. It's not a question, it's just a clarification. When you said that Pakistan shot down 6 Indian aircraft and they offload their payload as well. So you were talking about the location. What was the location of the, hold on one second. Can you elaborate about the location of the shot down plane? I mean, to my understanding, it was like in a territory of Pakistan. Because
No, they're not in the territory. They weren't.
Just
we were part of Pakistan. First of all, as far as it took India, one of Pakistan's great strengths throughout this whole conflict was our credibility and our transparency. Our transparency with the media and our transparency with our international partners. And we did shoot down 6 planes. Even the shooting down of those 6 planes was Pakistan showing restraint. Pakistan had 20 Indian planes locked that night, but only 6 planes had released their load on Pakistan when they targeted the civilian infrastructure within Pakistan. And the Pakistani military demonstrated immense restraint when they only targeted those 6 planes. But I think it's very telling that it took India a whole month to admit that it lost those 6 planes. And I think that it goes to show that when one country is telling the truth to its people, the truth to the international community, and the truth to the media, and another country is hiding the truth from its own people, from the international community, and from the media, then it should be obvious to all that who's on the right side of history and who's on the wrong side of history.
Ephraim followed by Mia.
Thank you so much. Good to see you, sir. Ephraim Kusaifi from Arab News Daily. In 2019, when India moved to change the status of Kashmir and annex it, you have launched a campaign also against that move. But the sense back then and until now was that the response has been, this issue has been fading more and more from world attention. What makes you think this time that your efforts, that the world is going to listen, actually, that you will convince the world to engage?
I think you're absolutely right to point to 2019. And I think something that's significant about that is everything that Pakistan has been warning about India has been proven true. We were saying that they're not interested in international law. We were saying they're increasingly becoming a rogue state. And they've demonstrated by their actions in 2025 that that's exactly what they are. The difference between 2019 and 2025 is we went to war. And the consequences of this conflict are that we are now in a more precarious position where, unfortunately, we feel It's not a question of if, but when the next war is fought. We may be in a worse position than we were today. The current context, obviously, we do talk about Kashmir as the root cause and seek to discuss that issue with India. But in addition to that, we seek to address the water issue, the terrorism issue. A significant departure from Pakistan's position in 2019 and 2025 is that Pakistan in 2019 also said we don't want to talk with India. At the moment, where our position is that we like a dialogue with India that includes all these topics. So I think that's a significant difference between what happened in 2019 and in 2025. As far as the interest, the international community's failure to act, the effectiveness of the campaigns post-2019, that all stands. But having said that, given the threat that India's actions poses not only to India and Pakistan, but nuclear war isn't confined to just India and Pakistan, the consequences of that will be felt by the world. So it is incumbent on all of us to play our role to ensure that both India and Pakistan act as responsible neighbors and address their issues through dialogue and diplomacy.
Mia Azim, followed by Mr. Ahmed.
This is Azim Mia from Geo and Young in the News. And now you were busy with the multilateral diplomacy here at the United Nations. From tomorrow you will be entering to the bilateral diplomacy in Washington. So give us a sum up what you have achieved here and what are your targets in the bilateral bilateral relationship, Pak-American relationship, and Shashi Tharoor with Indian delegation is also there. Is there any chance of coming across, any chance of dialogue, or any chance of confrontation?
John, as far as our the multilateral component is concerned, I think that our trip to New York has been and to the UN has been very successful. We've engaged with the OIC, we've engaged with the E10, we've engaged, as I said, the UN Secretary General, the President of the Security Council, various permanent representatives of member states, and everybody has been very, very receptive to Pakistan's position on the Indus Water Treaty, to Pakistan's commitment to dialogue and diplomacy in pursuit of peace. Everybody has been very appreciative for Pakistan's transparency, particularly with our offer, or our Prime Minister's offer, for an investigation into this attack during the conflict. So in that context, I think it's been a very fruitful and beneficial use of our time here in New York. As we go on to DC and to other countries, we have our own brief, and our India counterparts will have their own brief. Ours is a mission of peace, a mission of advocacy for dialogue and diplomacy. I'm not quite sure what the other side is doing. They go around and they show a picture of a man with a beard leading funeral prayers. And this delegation goes around violently sort of shoves this picture in everybody's face. And they say, look, this guy is a terrorist. The fact of the matter is, this man is not a terrorist. Pakistan happens to have a name similar to one of the sanctioned people, but he's not. So during the conflict, India relied on disinformation. Post-conflict, India is still relying on disinformation. This idea that you can paint all Muslims with the same brush, that you can just use the word terrorism, and your own country will be convinced, the international community will be convinced. Maybe that worked in 2001, in 2003. but it doesn't work so well in our context in 2025. I call upon the Indian government to be honest with themselves, to be honest with their people. The fact of the matter is the people of Pakistan and the people of India are less safe today than they were yesterday. And it's my responsibility to keep my people safe. It's their responsibility to keep their people safe. We have not discussed terrorism. When is the last time that Pakistan and India had a conversation about terrorism? We have no intelligence sharing over terrorism. We have no coordination over terrorism. So how are we meant to combat terrorism? It's almost a self-defeating purpose. That you continue to insist you're so passionate about terrorism, but then refuse to work with countries to combat that very menace. Similarly, how is it within the interest of India, within their security interests, within their economic interests, to allow this precedent to be part of their official state policy? Forget about the fact, no, don't forget about the fact, but let's keep to one side that it's a violation of international law, a violation of UN Security Council resolutions. What's the logic? That without any proof, without any evidence, anywhere, if there's a bomb attack in India by anyone, it means you start to send your planes into the air. Then you'll shoot missiles over, nuclear-capable missiles over into your neighboring country. Does that bode well for investment in India? Does that mean that their people's lives are more secure? Does it deter terrorists, or does it encourage terrorism? Terrorists want to create confusion. They want to spread fear. The fact that their actions can result in a much broader conflict between two nuclear powers don't serve our interest, don't serve India's interest, but it certainly serves their interest. So there's need for deep introspection within India's society, between the Indian government. Their strategy has not been working. They must recognize that not all Pakistanis are terrorists, no matter what their government says to them. And they'll find it far more efficient, far more effective to work with the government of Pakistan, work with the relative institutions with Pakistan, to combat the joint threat of terrorism.
Mr. Ahmed, followed by
Thank you very much, Ahmed Fathi, ATN News.
Which news, sorry?
Ahmed Fathi, ATN News.
ATN News, thank you.
Let me start with a statement you made today, saying that the recent terrorist attack in Kashmir is being used as a political tool to demonize Muslims in India. Sir, I have watched the briefings on both sides, and as far as I recall, there were Muslim Indian military officers who were conducting the briefing on the Indian side.
Well, as far as the operation is concerned, you're absolutely right.
Okay. The other thing, my main question is a follow-up on my colleague Batul about tariffs and trade.
Okay, can I just answer your demonizing question
Okay,
first?
sure.
Terrorism in general is used by India to demonize Muslims within their territory. This, I'm not specifically limiting it to this attack, but the Indian political environment is such that the word terrorist is used as a wolf whistle to either whip up sentiment against Muslim minorities within the Indian mainland, to demonize, to paint all Kashmiris within Kashmir who are opposed to the policies of the Indian government, not as legitimate voices of opposition, not as a form of resistance, but they demonize everyone as terrorists. Surely those who attack civilians are terrorists. But those people who raise their voice for the right to self-determination of their people are not terrorists. The Indian government has not only demonized Muslims within their own country and minorities within their own country. Pakistan has complaints about India financing and supporting terrorist activity within our country, but also Pakistan is not alone in having these complaints against India. For example, India has been targeting Sikh activists across the world. They've done so within Pakistan, where the Indian government has funded defunct terrorist organizations within Pakistan to conduct assassination of Sikh activists within Pakistan. The Indian government has engaged in similar criminal activity in Canada, where they've targeted Sikh activists in Canada. The Indian government has engaged in similar criminal activity here in the United States. The policy of the RSS or the BJP government to the Muslim minority within India is not something new. It's a known fact. What they do within their own country is up to their own system. When they start implying that all Pakistanis are terrorists as a result of the fact as a result of the actions of a few terrorists, I believe that's demonizing an entire population.
Thank you. Let me move to the trade and bilateral with the U.S. since you're going and your delegation are heading to Washington, D.C. and I'm assuming you're going to have meetings in Congress and House and Senate, as well as the think tanks. How should Pakistan position itself in the current milieu of evolving competition between China and the West, led by the U.S. In the current environment, especially given that you have the CPEC, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor project, which have economic significance and rising as well global scrutiny of strategic infrastructure investments. What's your message going to be to Congress to rebuttal this accusation of being that you are warming up more to China?
We have economic relationships with both the United States and China. I kind of find it absurd for anyone to argue that one is not to have economic relations with any one country. For example, the United States has heavy competition with China, right? But they do a lot of trade with China. So Pakistan...
with tariffs.
Well, there's a tariff back and forth so far, but they do a lot of trade with each other, do they not? And surely it serves the interests of both countries that Pakistan, while obviously it will continue to do trade with its neighbor, that it also continues to do trade with the United States. What I do appreciate about the U.S. government at the moment is that they are talking about a more comprehensive dialogue with Pakistan about the scope of our trade. We're confident in our relationship with our neighbors, and we're optimistic about the trajectory of our relationship with the United States.
That is going to be the last question because the delegation has a meeting lined up with the PGA.
Thank you. Iftikhar Ali from Associated Press of Pakistan. Sir, part of my question has been asked by my colleague, but I would like you to elaborate. After your meetings with permanent and non-permanent members, individually and collectively, do you, and your emphasis on them to realize their duty towards people of Kashmir, do you think you have been able to move them to take some action to, that any initiative will grow from this interaction between you and the Security Council?
Specific to Kashmir, I mean broader, as far as our Pakistan's call for dialogue and diplomacy in pursuit of peace, and encompassing many topics, including terrorism, including Kashmir, including water, I found receptiveness to that. But I wouldn't, as far as the hurdles we face within the UN and in general as far as the Kashmir cause is concerned, that still exists. Another topic that we have been emphasizing is obviously the issue of terrorism. As you're well aware, we've come here to the United Nations with dossier after dossier about Indian involvement in supporting terrorist proxies in Pakistan. The Indian government in the Sharm el-Sheikh communique are on record that they supported terrorism, terrorist groups in Balochistan. Their officer, Kulbhushan Yadav, is in our custody since 2017, who's also admitted to supporting these groups. And it is important for Pakistan that India ceases such activity. We feel we've demonstrated through the FATF process that Pakistan has taken necessary actions against all groups within our territory. We continue to face challenges up until this day, but we're combating terrorism on all fronts. The Indian side has not shown any willingness to engage in addressing Pakistan's concerns vis-a-vis terrorism. And Iftikhar Sahab, aapko to maloom hai that just before we arrived here, there was a terrorist attack in Balochistan targeting a school bus, which resulted in the loss of lives of innocent children. This is a day-to-day activity with us. If you compare in quantum terms the number of terrorist attacks that take place in India and Pakistan, unfortunately there are more terrorist attacks that take place in Pakistan than they do in India. If you compare the number of victims to terrorism both in Pakistan and in India, there are more Pakistanis that are killed by terrorists than Indians that are killed by terrorists. But ultimately the fact of the matter is, above and beyond this accusation and counter-accusation and this finger-pointing, which actually will be more effective, would be if Pakistan and India were to work together to combat terrorism. I am completely confident that if ISI and RAW sat down and worked together to fight these forces, we would see a significant decrease in terrorism both within India and Pakistan. At the moment, Pakistan is willing to put all cards on the table. We're saying, let's talk about terrorism. Let's talk about Kashmir. Let's talk about water. Let's make peace. We're not shying away from any investigation, in fact, despite having no legal obligation under international law. We presented ourselves for international accountability because of the confidence we had that our hands were clean. There's only one country that is running away from dialogue, running away from an investigation, refusing to accept international law, refusing to accept the UN Charter. So either we decide that the UN Charter doesn't apply, international law doesn't apply, and therefore it no longer applies to Pakistan and it no longer applies to India, and we'll do as we might. Or those of us who do believe in international law will continue to insist that no, we will abide by this international law, but all parties must also abide by this international law, whether it comes to the issue of Kashmir, whether it comes to the issue of terrorism, and most recently and importantly, whether it comes to the issue of the Indus Water Treaty. Thank you, everybody, for all your questions, and I hope I...
Thank you so much.
Jaldi.
I'm from Sunan News, Pakistan. My question is that Pakistan is apparently a victim in terrorism. So TTP is very active in that region, and apparently India is supporting TTP. Is there, we raise the voice and the world can listen our voice to support us in this terrorism against these terrorist groups, especially in TTP?
Both groups, the TTP, the PLA, and other such terrorist groups, Pakistan has their complaints about the cross-border support from various neighbors. We've presented this proof before this forum and other forums. We haven't shied away from combating these forces within our country, but ultimately it is important for us to work with our neighbors to ensure that we cut off this support, that terrorism is not used as a tool of Indian foreign policy. It's something that everybody has to understand, that if they think that they can fund some terrorist group today to kill some Sikh activists, tomorrow those very groups will form a problem for them. It's not possible that a non-state actor somewhere is a terrorist and the very same group is your ally in another context. The international community as a whole has to agree that this ambiguous policy as far as non-state actors are concerned, and the inconsistency as far as our policies vis-a-vis terrorism is concerned, needs to be addressed. Pakistan has been a very responsible partner in the fight against terrorism. We've suffered in the fight against terrorism. We've learned and grown as a result of our combat experience with these terrorists. We've learned our lessons. It's now time for the world to learn theirs. Thank you.